Chapter 28. What verse would Cocytus invade? That would be the Eminence in the Shadowverse, exactly around the time when the MC left Earth and reincarnated. Cocytus was going to Earth to get humanity onto his side and rule over Earth. But before Cocytus leaves, I should explain how the new world traveling ability I had worked. I didn't really travel to a new verse world, multiverse, or whatever you want to call it. Instead, the guild acts as a doorway to a new world. The guild would exist on Earth of the Eminence in the Shadowverse, while at the same time being in the Overlord verse. It was in two places at the same time. But this came with a huge downside, that being that the weaker the guild was, the fewer worlds it could be at. And the fact I could be attacked from more than one world all at once. In other words, if I wished to reach countless other worlds, I needed to strengthen not only myself but also increase Nazaric's overall power. Oh, there were new levels to adapt to following the Omniverse thing. What did I mean? The Overlord levels were not the same as other leveling systems out there. For this reason, I was given Omniverse levels to go by. Level 1 to level 3 10C, below average human level. Level 4 to 6 10B, human level. Level 7 to 10 10A, athlete level. Level 11 to 13, 9C, street level. Level 14 to 16, 9B, wall level. Level 17 to 20, 9A, small building level. Level 21 to 22, 8C, building level. Level 23, high 8C, large building level. Level 24 to 26, 8B, city block level. Level 27 to 30, 8A, multi-city block level. Level 31, low 7C, small town level. Level 32, 7C, town level. Level 33, high 7C, large town level. Level 34, low 7B, small city level. Level 35, 7B, city level. Level 36, high 7B, large city level. Level 37 to 39, 7A, mountain level. Level 40, high 7A, large mountain level. I was currently level 33, while other level 100 players would be level 31. In other words, I could destroy a large town, but remember my power wasn't all around destruction, I had many hack spells and abilities that could ignore the strength and durability of others. For example, the spell Grasp Heart could allow me to grab the heart of a target and crush it. That spell alone would allow me to kill those of a higher tier. Let's not forget I could just tell anyone and anything to just die. I can rewrite fate itself, and I could affect the concept of a target. I might be at level 33, but I was like those cultivation novel MCs who could fight far above their levels. It's just that for me, it was hard to tell how high, since if someone out there could perfectly counter my hack's ability, I would be helpless. Anyways, the guild was currently at the town level. This means I have 3 worlds I could go to. With every tier it crossed, that was another world I could enter. At level 40, I could have a max of 4 worlds I could go to. This means I had to be careful with the type of world I go to. If I go to a weak world, that can't help me and the guild grow stronger, I risk being stuck with the worlds I have picked. Where am I? In a white void, a soul could be seen floating there with a lost and confused look. The soul was of a young average-looking man, a background character. But this young man currently had a shocked and scared look seeing the skeleton walking towards him. What are you? He asked in shock. I'm Ainzul Gaon, and you Minoru Kagano. Well, let's say your dreams moved me, I said, stopping before the soul. I will have you reincarnate into a new world, one filled with magic. In return, I want you to become my follower. I can't just give you this opportunity without wanting something in return. I said with a smile, although it couldn't be seen since I was a skeleton. What do you want to do with me? Take over the world? Well, I don't really care. Deal. He said, his eyes burning in joy at the opportunity to have magic. You are a bit weird. I said while flesh grew on my face, and I returned to life. Minoru wasn't gay or anything, but even he had to pause for a long second seeing my appearance. I will be stopping by from time to time in your new life when I am bored, I said while looking at the future Sid Kaganu, someone who would be above level 40. I sent him away before he could say anything, controlling fate to have him reincarnated into the life he should have reincarnated into. After, I returned and left, returning back to Earth where I looked at Cocytus who was getting ready for the magical beast that would invade Earth. I will leave everything to you, I said with a smile, to which Cocytus nodded seriously. There was a barrier shielding Nazarick, so no tech or anything like that could spot this place. I returned to the throne room, where I opened the gateway to another world, much to Albedo's unease. Don't worry, after this world, there will be just one more world, I said while feeling how the guild was connected to a new world. I teleported to the first floor of Nazarick, where I went up to the surface world, and opened the door. And I found myself in a new world, that was near a sea, leading to it being surrounded in mist. I went on to walk around, my appearance being hidden by Momon's raven black armor. I closed my eyes, sensing the world around me for a few seconds, before I shot off, the door leading to Nazarick shouting behind me. You would protect them? A short man with glasses asked with a mocking smile facing a young man who dared to face him to protect his family. The man gritted his teeth, unwilling to stand down to this man's tyranny. So long as I live, I will protect my family with my own 2 hands, he said, shielding his father-in-law, wife, and stepson. The man with glasses smirked before signaling to his men. A group of rough-looking men stepped forward, cold, cruel smirks illuminating their faces. The man grew uneasy, he ordered his family to flee while he got ready to run forward and throw himself at them. But such plans stopped as a raven black longsword landed in between them. A man willing to sacrifice his own life to protect his family. That's a man worthy of my respect. Everyone turned to the mist, and there they saw me stepping out of the thick mist, leaving them all uneasy. Who are you? The man with glasses asked with cold and narrowed eyes. Who I am isn't important, what matters is that this man has earned my respect, and with that comes the gift of my protection, I said calmly. Do you know who I am? I'm Gato, he said glaring at me. He had seen many powerful shinobi in his lifetime, so he knew when a powerhouse was standing before him. And I was such a thing. I could care less what your name is, Gato out of here, I said, and to that, Gato had to unwillingly retreat. Gato had planned to use that man I just saved as a means to scare off the others in this village, but with my appearance, he had to fall back and start scheming. Thank you. The man I saved said, walking up to me and paying his respect. But I waved his words off while going to pick up my sword. You should have killed him, now he would return with more man. The father-in-law said with uneasiness, leading to her daughter trying to get him to shut up as there was no way to talk to someone who had just saved them. That's true. But I don't have enough information to go on to kill him. I'd rather not kill someone without understanding what would happen after I cut them into 2. I said calmly. Does he have a loved one who would put a bounty on myself and you guys? Is he working for someone? What are his goals? These are things that need to be known before choosing to kill. I said calmly, leaving them all quiet. I will gift you with this, I will come back in 6 months to get it back. Your name? I said, giving my sword to the young man I had saved. I'm Kaiza, he said, struggling to hold the sword up. He had to rest it against the ground, that was until the sword suddenly flooded him with power, causing him to moan lightly. I have to get going, but this should allow you all to put up a fight. But it would be unwise to try and hold up the sky on your own. Seek help from the shinobi. I said calmly, seeing how Kaiza was enjoying the power he had, getting almost drunk on it. Thank you. Coming back to his senses, Kaiza bowed deeply, but I waved his words off while turning to leave. Stand tall and protect your family, so long as your heart remains firm, you shall remain standing, I said, disappearing into the mist as if I was never there. The next time I would return here would be in 6 months, when the plot of the anime would have begun. This was the Naruto anime, by the way. This anime was filled with many hacks, abilities, geniuses, and best of all beings above level 40, with even some above level 50. If things go well here, then I should be able to increase the guild strength to level 50, allowing me to have a total of 5 worlds I could go to. By the way, once the guild reaches the universal levels of powers, I would have an endless number of worlds I could go to. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 29. I laid the foundation for an easy takeover of Naruto and the Eminence in Shadowverse. So, what would be my 3rd world? The 3rd world didn't need to be a crazy strong verse. Instead, it needed to be a verse with useful stuff that I could use. And that my friend would be the verse I was currently in. So, do we have a deal? 0. I asked calmly, looking at the young man who was wearing a mask. He went by the name Zero. This man was a symbol of the anti-Britannian rebellion in the fight for an independent Japan. You're a god, do I have any choice in the matter? Zero asked, to which I nodded. I rather not force you into it if you don't want to. But if someone like you joins my side, it would be far easier to conquer this world. I rather not rule through fear, it's not something I find enjoyable. I'm undead, so I will view every race equally, and treat all life easily. I will push humanity to bring out their full potential, and what's a better way than to create a world where everyone has equal opportunity? I ask, leaving Zero quiet. I have the power to turn my dreams into a reality and the brains to do it as well. I rather not use too much power, for power can change a person. That's why I seek helpers and limit myself from using my powers. I said, to which Zero removed his mask, revealing his handsome appearance. This here was Lelouch v Britannia, my favorite MC across all of anime. In second place would be Ain's Gown. Lelouch had a Geass, well, a few people in this world had a Geass which gifted them unique powers. Lelouch's Geass, which he gained through his contract with CC, grants him the power of absolute obedience. Anyone he makes direct eye contact with will be compelled to do as he says. I'm immune to your powers, I said with a smile, causing Lelouch to pause, seeing as I knew his power and dared to look him straight in the eyes. He of course instantly tried the power, ordering me to kill myself. This was the smartest order he could give me, for ordering me to follow him might hold the risk of me breaking free, and anything else would hold the risk of me seeking revenge. At the end of the day, Lelouch didn't want the gods to step into the mortal world. But sadly for Lelouch, I was indeed immune to this. It wasn't that I was too powerful or anything like that. This ability was equal to a world-class item, but I even had immunity to world-class items. Everything I said is true. But test me again and I will not be so gentle, I said calmly. Lelouch shook for a second before he spoke. What do you wish of me? He asked, to which I nodded in approval while getting up to leave. Go on and conquer the empire, keep talented people alive. Don't kill if you don't have to kill. I said while a gate opened behind me, and out came one of the atomic twins. Before I tell you a few things, you should know what I am. I'm not part of your universe, reality, multiverse, or whatever. The best way to picture me is to see me as some being from another world who gained the power to go to other worlds. What I want in this reality is simple. I said calmly. I want the tech and bright minds of this world, so if you can get all of that, do it. Even if they are your enemies, find a way to get them to your side. As for the fighters, they are not something I care much for. Normal humans would not be useful to me. Maybe in a few hundred or so years, they would. I said calmly. Do you have a few people in mind? Lelouch asked, taking everything in with shocking calmness. Yes, the royal family should be kept alive if possible. Just use your power to get them to be loyal to you. If and when your power grows out of control, come to me, and I shall stabilize it for you and strengthen it. I said calmly. This one of the Atomic Heart Twins, she is known as Moon, I said calmly. The Atomic Heart Twins, I created them for one simple reason. I wanted to study them and see if I could recreate these robots on a mass scale. They were from the game Atomic Heart. In that game, they were known as Left and Right. But I instead called them Sun and Moon. The twins looked alike, with the only difference being that Moon had on a shirt and Sun didn't. Greetings, Moon said while stepping forward, her body transforming to take on a more human-like appearance for this role. As for the human-like appearance, she only put on clothing and grew eyes, a mouth, and a nose. I went on to tell Lelouch a few other things before I returned to Nazarick, where I sat back and waited for things to play out. This was perfect. Lelouch alone had the means needed to rule Japan. I built my foundation in the Naruto-verse, and Sid was already working for me. Now, I could sit back, and wait for my fusion to be complete while at the same time ensuring that Nazarick was perfect. And so months passed. A lot of things happened in just the span of a few months. In the Eminence in the Shadow, time flowed faster in the new world Sid had reincarnated into. By the time Sid became 17 in his new life, only 3 years would have passed in his new life. I went there to of course see Sid training. If I train, it would act like XP which could help me level up. Thanks to this, I could train if I wanted to, and if I gained new powers and abilities, depending on what that power is, it would act as XP to level me up. So, the new magic of that world acted as XP which didn't just level me up to level 37, mountain level, but it also leveled up all of the NPC of Nazarick since I spread this power amongst them all to further boost Nazarick power. Now, even the most basic NPC were at 22, building level. I was there as Sid from Shadow Garden. Shadow Garden hid in the shadows to hunt off the shadows. I became known as the very embodiment of both the shadows and the light amongst the members of Shadow Garden. Meanwhile, in the Naruto-verse, I had gained chakra. Sadly chakra wasn't all that powerful, so it didn't help me or the guild level up much. But as Kaiza kills, it's like I'm killing, so I didn't mind. With months' worth of fighting, Kaiser had suffered injuries that would have killed him. The sword didn't heal him, it instead kept him alive so long as his will was strong. As things were starting to look bad for them, Kaiser was starting to realize that my words were true, maybe he couldn't take on Gato all by himself and should start seeking help. But from who? Meanwhile, Lelouch had already taken over Japan. He did as I had asked, having the bright minds of that world stay alive to join the research squad I planned to build. As for the Overlord verse, well, nothing much happened. Instead, the past months were focused on ensuring that every underground power in this world was under the control of Nazarick, or a few nobles were now loyal to Nazarick. Sebas did save Ninya's elder sister. What followed was the Golden Princess joining hands with Brain, Momon, and others to hunt down the evil of the kingdom, which almost led to the Golden Princess being assassinated if not for Momon saving her in time. It was a show which made the common people move to tears that the Golden Princess would go so far as to offend so many powerful people for them, and a show of how noble Momon was. Protest exploded in the Re-Esti's kingdom. Somehow, evidence that shed light on the corrupt nobles made its way to everyone's eyes through something called newspapers. Disgusted and enraged by all of this, Momon walked up to the worst of the nobles and killed him before the cheers of the crowd. This branded Momon a criminal, but the people protested when they saw the dungeon filled with slaves and common people who were used as sex slaves. The royal family had no choice but to remove the bounty on Momon's head, seeing how the common people stood on the side of Momon and pushed back. For the first time, the common people pushed back, and this reminded many people that the common people had the most power within the kingdom, since a kingdom was nothing without them. Momon became a hero, and with the king's orders, he hunted down the rest of the nobles who were doing the illegal things. Under the cheers of the commoners, the kingdom was cleaned up. Many nobles ran away from the kingdom, fleeing from Momon and the many adventurers who were hunting them down that day, but the kingdom, which was overrun with corruption, became clean for the first time. Now, the Re-Esti's kingdom was in good hands for the upcoming war. Sure, all of this left many lands without a noble to overlook it, but the Golden Princess had already seen through this problem and easily solved it. Although commoners still needed to be drafted to go to war, they would be treated fairly, and be given better rewards unlike before. This meant that they had more time to train for the war. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 30. While everything was happening, I fell into a deep slumber. Luckily, the avatars I have created didn't disappear, they were part of me and at the same time could be considered their own person. So, this allowed them to exist even if I was out cold. Where am I? I asked lightly while walking through a world of darkness. But I knew the darkness I was seeing wasn't black, it was instead a color I couldn't comprehend. No, it wasn't a color, for nothing existed around me. Everything has ended. I tried to recall the last thing that happened, and all I could remember was a screen appearing before me, warning me about my skill fusion about to be completed. I was forced to flee, leave Nazarick, and fly into outer space, where I teleported to the first planet I could see, which happened to be Mars. New job class gained. Warning, the job class isn't name, please pick a name for the job class. Description: this job class is the ultimate ability of death. Blessed upon those who walk the path of death to its limits and beyond. It's the fusion of 3 abilities. The Int, the almighty instant death, keeping all of the abilities and strengthening them to newfound levels. Abilities: Grim Reaper, you're the Grim Reaper, within a set range depending on your strength, all deaths are under your control. If you allow something to die, then it shall be able to die if it meets the right conditions. But if you don't allow it, even if it faces sure kill attacks, it would live although the damage would be taken. Every death that happens within the said range shall act as fuel to your power. For upon death, they enter your domain. Within this domain, all they had shall act as fuel to your own strength, while the said being that died added their strength upon your strength. All of their powers, skills, abilities, insights, wisdom, knowledge, and so on shall be yours to do with as you wish. Limitation: this ability is only useful if the said person truly dies. If they have the means to bring themselves back to life, or even fight on after death, this ability is useless. Death's domain: all that dies enters your domain. Within your domain, other than simply having all of their powers, skills, abilities, insight, wisdom, and so many more, you would have the power to call upon those in your domain to do battle for you. They would grow stronger within your domain, bathing under the power of death, with all of their limitation gone. The stronger you are, the stronger they can become. If they die while outside the domain, even if the very concept of who they are is erased, don't worry, for they shall return to the domain and heal to return to battle. Limitation: once they are out of your domain, the outside world can affect them. For example, mind control. They are completely loyal to you, but with those highly skilled enough, they could get them to backstab you. If you die, they will crawl towards you and eat your concept and all. Death's wisdom. As death, you can see how many things could and might die. From your enemy, a chair, to the multiverse. You can see the event leading to the death of anything, so long as the thing in target is within your sight. Even if the thing in your sight dies in another multiverse from where you are, you can still see every detail leading up to its death. Seeing the future and all that could happen is not the only thing this ability can do, for it allows you to sense killing intent aimed towards you, along with many other things. Limitation. Beings out there could escape your eyes, hide from your eyes, or even trick your eyes. Those with plot armor are well known for a pull of bullshit moments, so they could go against what you see. There is a limit to how many things you can see all at once, so all possible outcomes to a said thing's death would need you to scan through it, all one by one. The faster you are, and the stronger your mind is, the easier and quicker this task can be. It's useless before those without an end. The end. You have the power to kill anything and all things. You decide what death is. All things that dare try to block and resist this skill shall be ignored, and the target shall meet its end. Their end could be of them just disappearing from existence, or to them just dropping lifelessly to the ground. You decide. All that dies at the hands of this power shall remain dead unless you allow it. All that aims to harm you shall first overcome the end if they wish to harm you. Limitation. Some beings might have escaped the concept of having an end, making this skill useless. There are ways to avoid and get around this skill, so it's not all powerful. Some might have the skills needed to just shrug it off. The goal of all existence is death. Your ultimate attack targets someone, anyone, or anything, and with this, they shall die no matter what. Even if they escape the concept of their end, even if they can avoid their death, you shall ingen the concept of death back into their being, and allow them to die once more. Limitation. It has a 10-year cooldown time, with a 1-day charge time. Although this could be lowered with mastery of this skill. I'm death, you're death, so how can you die? You're now the living concept of death, growing stronger to one day reach the big shots out there in the omniverse. Limitation. As death, you're super weak against life. Oh wait, never mind. Reverse death technique. What's a negative times a negative? A positive. You have the power to take death and convert it into life. With this, you have all of your powers above and their opposite version. You can one day fuse the two versions, in a perfect balance of yin and yang, and become the concept of life and death. Limitation. It's going to be hard, so start training. Wow, I said, absorbing the knowledge in my head. I was shocked at how overpowered I just became. I could now just walk up to Goku and ask him to die, and he would be nice enough to do as I asked. I was even more shocked with the reverse death technique. I would have the power to create anything. I could kill both powers and abilities. I just needed to get the hang of the reverse death technique to be able to understand the limitations on what I could and couldn't bring to life. What's a good name? Well, I would go with Z Omega. But once I get the life part, I would call it A Alpha. Once all comes together, it shall be known as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I said with a grin, liking the name I had picked. Name accepted, Z Omega. The screen appeared and disappeared the following moment. I looked around wondering why I was still in this world of darkness until I realized something. This world of darkness was just the world Mars had turned into. By just existing here, I created a domain around me where everything was dying. This was a passive skill I had. I was death, and when I arrived the end of something was near. I turned off the passive skill, and slowly light began to make its way into this void. I looked down and saw that Mars was rotting away. The whole planet had died, only held together by the fact that anything trying to touch it died. Now, with my power of death turned off, the light and gravity hitting it caused it to break apart slowly and disappear into the void. I stood there stunned. My passive skill killed a planet. That was a bit overpowered. My passive skill was only limited by its range, or else it would have affected the whole universe. I teleported to Earth. I looked around and found that this was the Eminence in Shadowverse. I didn't look around or care to find out what world I had entered when I left Nazarick. I was scared I would kill my guild. I looked at Cocytus, who currently had an army of humans joining his undead army to combat the magical beast. Cocytus had created a safe city, and he had not only learned to lead an army, but how to manage his army and normal people. Skills he needed to learn, seeing as humans were a pain in the ass sometime. I didn't bother Cocytus. Instead, I returned to Nazarick, where I quickly found out I had been asleep for a few months. Just a day before the annual wars between the Re-Estais Kingdom and the Baharuth Empire starts. I had left Albedo to handle everything on my behalf while I was gone. Pandora's actor even stepped forward, transforming into me since I was out. My lord, the Baharuth Empire asked you to start the war with your strongest spell, Albedo said with a smile. A not-so-kind smile. It was a smile that wanted to see the world burn. She wasn't alone as she was joined by Demiurge, Shaltir, and the others. Looks like you all have a spell in mind. Or should I create a spell that best suits you all? I asked with a smirk, for this was the moment I was waiting for. I wanted to see the limit to the type of spells I could create, so I wanted to brainstorm this with everyone here. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 31. Cat's Plains was a large plain that is considered a barren land that spawns numerous undead. The plain was the battlefield of the annual wars between the Re-Estais Kingdom and the Baharuth Empire. At this moment, the two armies from both nations stood waiting for war. It didn't take a skilled warrior to know that the Baharuth Empire soldiers were more skilled, stronger, and had better gear than the Re-Estais Kingdom army. Although the Re-Estais Kingdom army had greater manpower, that was simply to try and level the battlefield. This was a war between quality and quantity. I don't think my army would be needed, so I didn't bother to bring them, I said calmly to the scared young man who was attending to me. The young man forced a smile, unsure how to react to such a statement. Your emperor asked me to start this war with my most powerful spell. Well, I shall do just that, I said calmly, to which the young man nodded, having nothing to say. In his eyes, he couldn't see how a simple third, maybe a fifth-tier spell would be anything impressive. I ignored him, as well as the soldiers who were uneasy with an undead walking amongst them. I sighed while transforming, taking on my human form. This was so that Gazef could know who I was. He did see my human form before, but he had seen a different form, and back then it was an illusion. Well, let's see how my strongest move would work. Well, second strongest, I said lightly, and with that, black magic circles appeared. They grew, spreading all over the place, creating a dorm. As dark as the magic circles were, they held this strange beauty that drew everyone in. What is that? Far away, in the Re-Estais Kingdom army, although they could barely make out my figure, the magic circles formed by me were something they couldn't ignore. Many grew uneasy seeing all of this, many with sharp instincts knew deep down that something bad was about to happen. This is Ain's Ulgaun power. Gazef said, closing his eyes as he knew something extremely bad was going to happen. But he watched on. In a way, this was a beautiful sight to watch before death. The Re-Estais Kingdom army rushed forward, the leaders and commanders no longer being able to sit by and watch as everything played out. A wave of soldiers rushed forward, and I just watched all of this happening, indifferent to the thousands of lives about to be killed. No, they would not die, for they would enter my domain. I offer this tribute to the gods of evil, answer my all and bring down your children. With my words, the magic circles that formed a domain around me spread out, turning into the power of death which instantly killed 70,000 men like it was nothing. The world went quiet seeing 70,000 people just die. They were horrified, they were shaking in fear, unable to comprehend what to say. Even the Baharuth Empire was horrified, feeling pity for those who died. Is everything all right? I asked, looking towards the young man who was scared shitless at the sight in front of him. And no, I'm just shocked by the power of your spell. I never seen anything like this. He said, scared, while trying his best to hide the fact he was scared. This was nothing. I could have had it kill the whole army if I wished, but that would be overkill. As effective as this spell might be, it uses up a lot of energy, and can only be cast once every 5 years. I said calmly, that last part was a lie. I could cast this spell a dozen times over without problems. Oh. The young man made sure to note those weaknesses. But if you thought that's everything to the spell. Well, you're mistaken, I said, confusing the young man, but the shock cries from the normally well-trained soldiers caused him to look back to the battlefield, and there he was shocked upon seeing the sight of souls flying into the sky, leaving those soldiers who were just killed. The sky darkened as countless souls gathered above, merging into a pulsating orb of radiant light. Simultaneously, the broken remains of their bodies disintegrated, drifting upward as fragments of shadow to form an opposing orb of darkness. The two spheres circled each other, their energies crackling violently, until they converged, twisting and folding into a yin-yang symbol that shimmered ominously in the heavens. Suddenly, the symbol plummeted, slamming into the earth with a deafening roar. The ground trembled as a gateway erupted from the impact, its edges glowing with an eerie, shifting light. From the depths of the gate, a massive arm began to emerge. A collective gasp swept through the battlefield. The arm was enormous, its hand alone could cradle a semi-truck with ease. It was grotesque, covered in pulsating, lidless eyes that darted in every direction. From within the palm came an unending chorus of anguished cries, the voices of the 70,000 soldiers who had perished moments before. Their torment echoed endlessly, a horrifying testament to the monstrosity that had been birthed from their sacrifice. Terror paralyzed the witnesses as the rest of the creature clawed its way out of the gateway. What emerged was beyond comprehension, a towering giant, its nightmarish form a picture of chaos. Its grotesque body was adorned with 140,002 eyes, all unblinking, each reflecting unimaginable horrors. 70,001 mouths gaped across its flesh, their cries imprinting themselves upon the souls of those who dared to hear it, never to be forgotten. 140,000 arms, each ending in jagged claws, reached and grasped at the air. The beast bristled with ears, hundreds of thousands twitching as if attuned to every scream, every whisper of despair. The cries of the tortured dead filled the air, their anguish reverberating across the land, shaking even the strongest of souls. Its flesh was a writhing, nauseating mass, radiating a presence so foul that it felt as though reality itself recoiled from its existence. The creature's central mouth was its most horrifying feature, a gaping void that seemed to lead directly to hell itself. The onlookers prayed desperately to their gods that it wouldn't open. Some soldiers clawed at their eyes, unable to bear the sight any longer. Others fell to their knees, succumbing to madness, or turned their weapons on themselves, choosing death over facing such a monstrosity. Those with wills of steel scrambled for solutions, their minds racing for ways to escape this nightmare and protect their king. But deep down, even they knew, they were staring into the abyss, and it was staring back. "What do you think? A monster without equals," I said with a smile, for this thing before everyone was equal to someone at level 50, in other words, moon level. I looked towards the young man and saw his ears were bleeding, the cries of that monster were like torture to his eyes. With him being so close to it, he was left paralyzed by horror, his instincts not letting him move in the hope that staying still would allow that monster to ignore his existence. He wasn't alone, for the army was the same. I snapped my fingers, healing their minds and shielding them so they could enjoy my work. I summoned this thing while only being at level 37, at such a level one was able to summon such a thing. I was happy. "I will go complete this war for you all," I said while floating up, the young man falling to his knees, his body shaking from the monster I was. I landed within the palm of the giant, wondering what name I should give it. "I will call you Nightmare Fuel," I said with a laugh, before having the monster rush forward. At speed so great the sound barrier was destroyed, almost leaving the soldiers deaf by the loud sound. If I didn't cast a spell in time, we disappeared. No one could keep up with Nightmare Fuel. At one moment he was slaughtering thousands of the Re-Estes Kingdom's army, and the next moment he was somewhere else. It was too fast, no one was able to keep up, only seeing after images, and the sound barrier was destroyed which launched everyone away. Well, I'm bored. After killing 10,000 people, I grew bored and had Nightmare Fuel appear before Gazef, who was yelling at everyone to quickly flee, only to pause seeing Nightmare Fuel appear before him. Gazef didn't know what to say, and what was even more so when I took my undead appearance before him. Well, a part of him wasn't shocked, for this made sense. No human should have the power I showed today. "Gazef, it's been a long time," I said while floating down, landing before Gazef, who was with Brain and Climb. "Indeed it has, Lord Ains Ul Gaun," Gazef said, not on guard and looking me straight in the eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Gazef couldn't help but ask, sure he knew this was a war of Karna village. But was this not overkill? I was asked to use my strongest spell. Well, so I did this. I take no joy in stepping on the ants. Undead I might be, I have no joy in taking life. Although I do take joy in trying out this spell. I said calmly. I'm done and have no interest in continuing this battle. I'm pretty sure your kingdom would happily give me Karna village now. But it would be a waste to have you remain in such a dirty and corrupt kingdom. Join me, I said calmly, to which Gazef thought for a second, before shaking his head. I can't betray my kingdom, Sir Ains, I mean no offense, Gazef said, to which I just nodded in understanding although disappointed. Then we would call this the end of this war. I have no interest in causing any more problems. My empire shall be a peaceful one that accepts all lifeforms, be it demi-human or humans. Stop by to visit when you can, I said calmly, while floating up and landing on Nightmare Fuel Palm, and with a flash we disappeared. This time no sound barrier was destroyed. Wait, Sir Ains. Gazef cried out, remembering that the prince was sent to Karna village and things might end poorly if he acted foolishly. Gazef gritted his teeth before turning and rushing towards the king to report this. To be continued.